Hey there, Team Whooleygan. It's Karen Whooley, and today I'm going to show you how to make this easy, super blingy crochet scarf for beginners. So let's dig in and get started. To get started with our easy bling scarf, we need two different yarns, and I'm using Ella Rae Sequencity. It's what we call a component yarn. It's usually used to carry along with another yarn. And you can see here, this one is just a thin strand, but it's got a lot of little sequins in it. So that's where I'm getting the bling. And I'm carrying it with another Ella Rae yarn. This is Silky Kid, and it's a super kid mohair and silk yarn. And it's very fine as well. So the two together are going to make about, I would say, probably close to a light fingering weight together. So we're going to be working these two together. This particular yarn has 76% Super Kid mohair and 24% silk, so it's really, really soft. So this scarf is going to be extremely, extremely soft. And then also you're going to need a size N as in Nancy crochet hook. This is a 10mm hook. This one isn't marked anywhere, but this is the hook I always use for when I make these scarves. So this is a size N. And then you will always need a pair of scissors and a needle to sew your ends in later. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make sure we're carrying both yarns. So you can see here on the bottom I have the mohair, and on the top I have the Sequencity. I'm holding those together, and the first thing I'm going to do is make a slip knot. Now if you don't know how to make a slip knot, make sure you check out my video on 3 ways to make a slip knot. I'll have the link in the notes at the bottom. Now when you make a slip knot, the one thing that's going to be interesting is that these sequins are not going to be allowing you to move your loop very easily. So if you make a mistake, just take out your slip knot and do it again, just like I did here. I'm going to try to make a little bit. There we go. So now I've got a good slip knot, and I'm able to tighten it up here. So now we're going to chain 11, and we're going to make really big stitches. So 1, and I'm going to move my fingers every stitch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and sometimes these yarns don't slide really well. 9, 10, and one more. See how the mohair wants to stick to itself, so you have to be careful with that. There we go. 11. Now, and I'm going to pull this away from the camera a little bit. You can see this is pretty big chain here, and you can see the big loops there. That's what you want, because that's what's going to give this scarf a really airy feel, and it's really lightweight. So before we get started, I'm going to make sure that you know the gauge is not super important with this particular pattern. If you choose to do different yarns, you just want to make sure that you pick the right hook to make the stitches light and airy. I recommend, if you're going to use like a fingering weight yarn, to use this 10mm hook in the process. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to single crochet. So we always skip the first chain when we do a single crochet. And for those of you who've never done a single crochet, I do have a video that talks about single crochet, but I'm going to show it to you here again as well. So we're going to skip that first chain or the last chain that we made, and we're going to go into the next chain. This is a nice big loop right there. So to make a single crochet is you go into the chain, and make sure you get both the component yarn and the mohair on top of your hook when you split it. Yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And we're going to do that again. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and you can see how the mohair is sticking to itself on my left hand here. Okay, let's do that again. So we're going to make 10 of these across. So we've done 2. So this is number 3. See how big I'm making my stitches? And then number 4, so we're going to insert into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches. So that's 4. Number 5, sometimes it's hard to get in between there because the mohair is really, it's sticky and it sometimes wants to slide really hard. I'm using a plastic hook, so it wants to slide on it. There we go. 6. Oops. And it's splitting. When you're working with 2 yarns, sometimes it wants to split between the 2 yarns, and you don't want to make sure, you do want to make sure that you don't do that. So here's number 7. You want to go through all the loops there. Here's number 8. Here's number 9. And there's my mohair again, wanting to stick to itself. So kind of move that. And then the last, here's your last chain. You can kind of tell because this is the last big loop before the slip knot. So this is 10. So we have 10 single crochets across. So row 2 is chain 1 and turn. And now you want to make sure we're going to do 10 single crochets across, but we're going to work in each single crochet that we just worked. So you don't be afraid to use your fingernails or your fingers to find the hole that you want to go into. So here's the chain 1 I just did before I turned. Here's my first single. So I'm going to go into that space. I want to make sure I catch the whole top. So there's actually 2 strands on top of my hook before I yarn over and pull up a loop. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and grab some, get some more yarn here, that yank here. Sometimes the spool that the component yarn is on wants to fall off the table, so I apologize for that. Okay, there. Oop, there we go. And then we're going to go to the top of the next one. And the thing you want to remember is when you're making your single crochets, you want to pull it a little bit so that it does tighten up a little bit, but you don't want to pull it so tight that you can't see the stitch. If you do that, you're going to want to pull out your stitch, just like I just did, and make it again. You see how big and open I'm making these stitches. That's what gives it a really super cool look. Now, the other thing is if you're a beginner, this is the perfect pattern for you to start learning how to single crochet with, because not only do you have all these big holes, but as long as you have 10 stitches across, if you miss something, it's hardly going to be seen. So if I accidentally skip this and do 2 in here, it's going to hide itself in this as we continue going along. You do want to try to keep doing your stitches, evenly so that you don't get these weird slants or look like you're decreasing stitches. You always want to make sure you have 10 stitches. And now that I'm here at the 10th stitch, before I chain and turn, I need some more yarn here really quick. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I'm now going to pull that up really quick. And we're going to count the stitches across. Now, I could have done this with the first row as well. I didn't show it to you. I'm going to show it to you here, though. If you look at the top of the stitches, you can see that there's another chain. See how there's a hole, like a little chain inside of a chain, inside of a chain? You count those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's my loop, and here is number 10, and then my loop is coming out of number 10. So we're going to go ahead and put my hook back in, and we're going to do one more row before I let you loose to finish, keep crocheting. Literally all this scarf is rows of 10 single crochets. So we always chain one before we turn when we're doing this scarf, and then we're just going to single crochet across again. So here's the first stitch. Insert the hook. Make sure you get both parts of the chain on top of the hook before you yarn over and pull through. And there's 2. Three. 4. I need a little more yarn here. I can feel that my mohair is getting tight. So just pull some yarn here. Okay, so I can count these so I can remember where I'm at. 1, 2, 3, 4. So number 5. Number 6. 7. 8. 9. And 10. Now you're going to keep going, and we're just going to keep continuing this row, this pattern. So you're going to chain one and turn. So we're going to chain one and turn here really quick. It's just hard when it's sticking together. Okay, there we go. Chain one and turn, and now we're going to do 10 single crochets across, and you see that see those beautiful holes? It gives you that lacy look that without even trying. So you're just going to do 10 single crochets across, chain one, turn, do 10 single crochets, chain one, turn, 10 single crochets until you run out of one yarn or the other. I'm pretty sure I'm going to run out of the mohair, this mohair, before I run out of the synchronicity. Or you can just keep going until it's the length you want. But once you get to that point, make sure you stop, and we'll come back to the video and I'll show you how to finish the scarf. So keep crocheting, and I'll see you in the next part of the video. Welcome back. I am just finishing up my last row here on the scarf. And as soon as I get to the end, I'll show you how to finish this off. Just a couple more stitches here. I hope you enjoyed making your scarf. I decided to make my scarf 54 inches long. So this is the last row. I didn't use up all my yarn, which I was happy to see because I was really hoping that I could make maybe even another one. Okay, so I have just finished my last stitch. So the next thing we need to do is fasten off. So first thing you want to do is cut the yarn, or at least this is how I do it. So I cut the yarn first, and then we do what we call a fasten off knot, which is literally just making a chain, yarning over and pulling through, but we pull the tail all the way through and then tighten the tail. And there is the last row. You don't have to do any fancy edgings on this. A really easy scarf. The only thing we still have to do is we need to weave in these tails. There's one at the end where I just finished, and then there was one over here at the beginning where we started. So let me show you how to do that. So because this is such an interesting yarn that has the component yarn in there with the sequence, you want to make sure you have a needle that has a large eye to it. That way you can make sure, first of all, you can feed the yarn onto the needle, including the sequence. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. And you want to make sure you get both yarns on that needle. Sometimes it's a little difficult to do, but I got that. Okay, so I always leave about a 4 to 6 inch tail so that I have a little bit that hangs over here. Once I thread it through the needle, there's enough of a tail that I don't keep losing the yarn when I'm weaving in the ends. Now, this again is a very lacy scarf. So we want to make sure that when we're weaving in this tail that we don't tighten things up to make it buckle, and we don't keep it too loose that it's going to undo. So this is how I do it with something like this. I always go down the rows, not across the short end. So I'm going to go down the long end. And the way to do that is I go under 2 strands of yarn, and then I split the two yarns in the next one. Then I'm going to go under 2 loops here, 2 threads, and I'm going to split. Now when I split, if you look here, you can see that I split the component yarn a little bit. And what that'll do is that will allow the fibers to hold on to, kind of lock into each other and hold themselves in. So I do that 2 or 3 times. So I'm going to go under 2, and then I'm going to split that component yarn. It's going to be easier to split the component yarn than it is going to be to the kid yarn, the mohair. So now when I pull through, I am going to pull it through a little snugly, but I don't want this to tighten up. And if I pull too hard, it's going to see how that just started to pucker up. So I'm going to make sure that it's tight. There's no extra loop here at the top, but it's not so tight that everything's puckering. Now you want to go back the same way we came from. So we go under 2 and we're going to split. And then we're going to go under 2 again. And then we're going to find a spot to split that's close by. There. And then we're going to go under 2 and we're going to split the last one as close as we can to where we started. And then we're going to pull through. And again, don't pull too tight. And when you split, I got lucky here a little bit, and the sequence didn't bother me so much. But sometimes the sequence will get caught, and you just have to play with the yarn and just kind of go like this until you can get the sequence to go through. Now, once you've gotten the tail woven in, you just cut what's left, and then what I like to do is just kind of work the fabric just a little bit just to make sure that it's all locked in. And that's all there is to doing this scarf. So I'm going to do the other end, and I'll check back with you in just a few minutes. So as you guys can see, I finished my scarf. The 2 ends have been woven in, and I've gotten it stretched and blocked and all that stuff, and I'll do another video in the future on blocking. But I hope you enjoyed this video and learning how to do this very simple scarf. If you really enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you've hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up, and then also ring the bell so that you will be able to be notified every time I go live. Have a great time making your scarf. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.